The New York Attorney General's office adds criminal elements to the Trump Organization investigation. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. The Q shaman comes out and says that Trump made him do it, thereby admitting the fact that he did something wrong, which, what's the first thing they tell you in Miranda rights? Don't say anything without your lawyer present. So, rant incoming on that. We'll talk a bit about what's going on there. Oh, let's see. What else in other news do we have here? Biden jokes with a reporter that he'll only answer her questions if he's allowed to run her over with a brand new F-150 that's electric. So that's fun. We'll talk a bit about there. And Congress is coming forward and saying, we won't wear masks on the floor. The best $500 we've ever spent. It's going to be all this and more. Hey, hey, hey. Do you trust the plan yet? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we've got a bunch of stuff to get to, as usual. It's been kind of a wacky day in the news. I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not. Plus, I'm going to go off on a great big rant over this whole thing with the Capitol Selfie Fest, because this is just attorney incompetence at this point. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on with that and what that could mean coming forward for the people who decided that they wanted to take their selfies on the U.S. Capitol. It's going to be all this and more over on Contemporary. But before we get started, head on over and check out my friends over at the Freedom Scoop Media Group. We have got great shows such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Breckenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Freckles and Brit Show, and The Generational Gap. Make sure you go and check out Stephen Ignoramus' Twitter, that is at IgnoramusSteve, as he has got information for his new channel that he's just had to start back up. It's a second backup because they got him again. Another strike on him, so go and check him out over there. Otherwise, go check out the rest of my friends on the media group. Check out all their alt media accounts, their main media accounts, everything else for them. And once we get the website back up and running, we will have merch and direct payment options so you can help us support great creators. All right, looking in at the locked up browser, give me a chance to get the chat back up for you guys. All right, looking in at finance for the morning to start off with. The Dow started up a little bit. It got up, it came back down to even, got back up again, and then it spent most of the rest of the day down. Right up until we got back to the end where it just dropped off like a stone. So we'll see what the investors have to say about all that. But it's looking great for the Biden admin, isn't it? I don't know. We'll see what's happening with that. But Bitcoin is hitting even harder right now. But also keep in mind that everyone's paying taxes right now too. So not a lot of people have money to go out and invest or to go out and buy the stuff that people are investing in. So, and that may be something that's going along with the Bitcoin as well. So we will see what's happening with that. On your Bitcoin for the morning. Give that a second to catch back up. Hopefully, this is one of the last weeks we have to do this like this. This week or next week, because the new system's on the way, by the way. I ordered all the pieces last night. They're coming. I still got to get it put together, get a fresh copy of Windows on there, and get the streaming software to it. But yeah, hopefully that's going to be coming here in the near future. The Bitcoin has dropped down to $38,599 US dollars and 50 US cents. So, yeah, that's going to start looking really good for people. Maybe buy in at this point. Maybe it's just on sale at this point. So, maybe you could still get into it. But it's still up there to a point where I anticipated it was going to be. But, you know, with Elon coming out and saying that he's not going to accept the cryptocurrency for cars anymore, on top of the fact that, as well, people are going out and paying their taxes right now, so they're probably selling off some of their Bitcoin to get that money. Remember, everyone got that big advance on their tax return this past year. Couple big advances, so now they're paying the price back. They told you it was a loan, and now you're figuring it out for yourself. So we will see what happens with that and where that goes. All right, looking in at gas for Madison, Wisconsin. I love it when everything locks up right in the beginning and then now everything's got to come back and reload. Come on. You can do it. Maybe not. There it comes. This is going to be an interesting show. Let me tell you about that. All right. At the Costco at Sun Prairie, $2.68 is the price. Otherwise, we go straight up to $2.82. We've got some 273s, some 279s scattered around. A couple of the 268s are coming back down. So, could it be coming back down? Could the gas prices be leveling off? We don't know. We'll see what happens, but we will continue to track that as it goes. We're still not seeing the 91 cents that we saw at this time last year. All right, let's get rid of this because that one is a dead link. All right, looking in at the Dow Jones for the morning from Investors Business Daily, archived, of course. Dow Jones futures signal sharp losses for market rally as Bitcoin crashes. More bad Tesla news, but target earnings strong. From Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures fell sharply Wednesday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and especially NASDAQ futures. While the Bitcoin price tumbled to fresh lows, Target stock rose on strong earnings, signaling a buying opportunity. The stock market rally retreated Tuesday, with the major indices finishing at the worst levels of all day. The Dow Jones and S&P 500 fell below their 21-day lines. The Nasdaq and Russell 2000 hit resistance at their 50-day moving averages. Once again, new breakouts fizzled. The tech-heavy Nasdaq rose for much of the session, even as Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, and Amazon retreated slightly. The biggest gains were among the beaten-down 2020 winners, such as Palantir Technologies, Peloton Interactive, Snowflake, and Zoom Video. Tesla stock, another former leader, saw modest gains almost fade away, hitting key resistance once again. Tesla has produced more than 10,000 electric vehicles, reportedly that are on hold because of a missing part, creating what a report called a logistical nightmare for the EV giant. Automotive chips in short supply worldwide are the likely culprit. It's part of a range of bad news for the highly valued automaker. Target reported much better than expected Q1 results early Wednesday. Target earnings leapt 525% and sales 23%. Target stock rose 4% early Wednesday, signaling a bullish bounce from its 10-week moving average and offering a buying opportunity according to MarketSmith analysis. On Tuesday, Target stock fell modestly to its 10-week line, closing next to a recent 3 weeks tight pattern. Hey, maybe the BLM and we're only going to buy from black-owned businesses business model works. I don't know. I'm not Target, I guess. Bitcoin price hits new lows. The Bitcoin price plunged again overnight, tumbling to $36,219.49 early Wednesday, the lowest since early February. Bitcoin peaked at $64,829.14 on April 16th, though most of the losses happened after May 8th. Chinese regulators on Tuesday stepped up their warning, saying financial institutions should not accept cryptocurrencies as payment. The cryptocurrency has come under heavy selling since late Wednesday, when Elon Musk said Tesla would no longer accept Bitcoin for buying its electric vehicles, citing environmental concerns. So, you're concerned about the electricity that your computer brings out when it goes to mine, which I understand is hard on the electric grid. I understand that, I really do, but you're concerned about that, but you're not concerned about what happens when you take that port and plug it into the side of your Tesla, which arguably draws a lot more energy. Musk, who had praised Bitcoin for months as Tesla bought $1.5 billion worth of the digital asset, followed up with more Bitcoin-critical tweets in the following days, and yet he hasn't sold off. He's just getting everyone else to sell it off. Coin stock tumbled 5% before the opening, signaling yet another record low since its April 14th debut. Coinbase stock fell 3.7% to $239 on Tuesday. Coinbase late Monday said it would sell the $1.25 billion worth of convertible debt. The cryptocurrency exchange recently reported massive earnings and revenue growth, but slightly missed views and warned of growing competition in crypto trading. Coin stock hit its $429.54 in its April 14th direct listing debut, but closed at $310, continuing a steady decline since then. Microsoft and Google stock are on the IBD leaderboard. Microsoft stock is on IBD long-term leaders. On the futures, Dow futures fell 0.9% versus fair value, S&P 500 futures retreated 1.1%, and NASDAQ lost 1.6%. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. All right, let's see what CNBC has to say, and let's get into the big news of the morning. On CNBC, Dow closes down 260 points at session low as megacaps tech stocks turn negative. From Yoon Lee and Thomas Frank. Major U.S. stock indices wiped out earlier gains and closed at their session lows on Tuesday as big tech stocks reversed lower while data showing housing starts dropped sharply last month also weighed on sentiment. The Dow Jones Industrial Average ended the session 267.13 points, or 0.8% to 34,060.66. The S&P 500 fell 0.9% to 4127.83. The tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite erased a 0.8% gain and slid 0.6% to 13,303.64 as Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Alphabet all rolled over and fell more than 1% on the day. Housing starts tumbled 9.5% to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 1.569 million units last month. The Commerce Department said on Tuesday, economists polled by Dow Jones had forecast starts falling to a rate of 1.7 million units in April. Investors also digested better than expected earnings from big retails. Walmart shares jumped more than 2% after reporting strong grocery sales and e-commerce growth for the quarter. Macy's posted a surprise profit and hiked for a full-year outlook. But its shares erased earlier gains and dipped 0.4%. Home Depot reported earnings of $3.86 a share for the previous quarter, much higher than the $3.08 expected by analysts. Polled by Refinitiv, net sales surged 32.7%, more than expected. The stock ended the session 1% lower. Which I am sure that we've got a bunch of people out there that are looking around saying, well, the lockdown's over, I'm getting a little bit of money back, and I've been looking at this same housing project for a year, just waiting to get back in so I had the money to go do it. Let's go and put new walls in the kitchen. Sally, what do you think about that idea? Growth-heavy stocks have remained under pressure in recent sessions as investors fret over whether a pop in inflation will entrench or blow over as the Federal Reserve expects. Inflation above the Fed's 2% target for a sustained period could prompt the central bank to tighten monetary policy and dampen stocks that outperform the market when interest rates are low. In other words, if they print too much funny money, they'll look back and say, oh fuck, we printed too much funny money. We're going to stop printing funny money. So, we'll see what happens with this, but the stocks are down right now. It looks like they are going to continue to turn that direction. We'll see what happens as we go along throughout the day. Let's get into the big news of the morning. Starting off with everybody's favorite former president, who I try very hard not to talk about on this program, but this does bear a little bit of conversation, starting with CNN. New York Attorney General adds criminal capacity to probe of Trump Organization. From Sonia Moog and Kara Scannell. The New York Attorney General, Letitia James, is joining the Manhattan District Attorney's Office in a criminal investigation of the Trump Organization. James's office said on Tuesday the AG office's investigation into the Trump Organization, which has been underway since 2019, will also continue as a civil probe, but the office recently informed Trump Organization officials all of the criminal component. We have informed the Trump Organization that our investigation into the organization is no longer purely civil in nature. We are now actively investigating the Trump Organization in a criminal capacity along with the Manhattan DA. James's spokesman, Fabian Levy, told CNN, "We have no additional comment." In an increasingly serious sign for former President Trump, the Attorney General's office is working with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, whose wide-sweeping probe into the Trump Organization has looked into whether the company misled lenders and insurance companies about value of properties and whether it paid the appropriate taxes. James's notification to the organization brings a new level of potential legal risk to the former president, with the AG now able to seek criminal penalties as part of the probes. Criminal penalties. It's a fine. It's a fine. That's what it is. It's not going to be. They've got this hard on, especially over at CNN, but all the other mainstreams as well. And everybody who the mainstreams told to hate Trump, they all have the same fucking boner right now. We're going to get him. We're going to put him in jail. It's going to jail. He's going to jail. Look at him. He's going to jail. We're going to put him in jail. From this, I don't think they put them in jail. I really don't. I don't understand where it is that they think that they can put him in jail either. This is fines. This is nothing but, let's say, funny accounting. Because I think that's what it's going to be. It's just funny, hilarious accounting. They're going to come back and they're going to say, oh, well, he had the inspector or the appraiser come out and appraise it at this much so they could pay this little in taxes. It's something that rich people do all the time around New York. And really, honestly, I don't even think they're going to look into it this far, to be completely honest, because they've got a lot of their rich business buddies, their big donor buddies, who Trump knows. And he can come out and blow the whistle on as well. He's got a lot of them out there where he can go out and say, hey, you know what? JP Morgan Chase is doing the same thing. Okay, maybe you should go look at them. This is going to be really, really hard on Manhattan business and New York business in general if this actually goes through. So keep that in mind and watch the stocks as that goes through as well, because, yeah, if he blows the whistle, a lot of other people who give a lot of money to Democrats are going down with him. Trust me, he knows. A lawyer for the Trump Organization declined to comment when reached by CNN. Manhattan DA Cy Vance's office is examining millions of pages of documents that include Trump's tax returns. A person familiar with the investigation said a couple of investigators with the New York Attorney General's office who are steeped in knowledge about the Trump Organization have joined the district attorney's teams. A different person familiar with the matter said the New York AG is still conducting a civil investigation. Trump has previously called the New York Attorney General's investigation politically motivated, which it is, by the way. For the past 2 years, James's office looked into matters, including whether or not it improperly inflated assets on financial statements to secure loans and obtain economic and tax benefits, as well as how Trump Organization employees are compensated. Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, testified before Congress in 2019 that Trump's annual financial statements inflated the value of his assets to secure favorable loans and insurance coverage, but deflated the value of other assets to reduce real estate taxes. Like a lot of other people in New York do, by the way. Investigators have deposed multiple Trump Organization officials, including Eric Trump, the former president's son, and Chief Financial Officer Alan Weisselberg. Trump's longtime tax attorney, Sherry Dillon, was also deposed, but the state says she declined to answer certain questions. Several Trump Organization properties' financial dealings are being scrutinized as part of the investigation, including Seven Springs Estate in Westchester County, New York, 40 Wall Street, a building in Lower Manhattan, Trump International Hotel and Tower, Chicago, and Trump National Golf Club in Los Angeles. So, lots of stuff going on with this. Let's see what Insider has to say. Trump Organization is now subject to criminal investigation in New York State Attorney General's office, tells CNN. From Charles Davis. The New York AG's office is now conducting a criminal probe into the Trump Organization, a spokesperson told CNN on Tuesday. We have informed the Trump Organization that our investigation into the organization is no longer purely civil in nature, spokesperson Fabian Levy told the outlet. I think this is a lot of the same. No, this is a developing story. Check back for updates. So we're not even getting the story back out of this. We just have the, what they said on CNN off of this. So we're probably going to get rid of this. But I mean, how much is Goldman Sachs shaking in their boots right now? I guarantee they know that Trump knows what they did, what they've done. JP Morgan, how much are they shaking? BMO Harris. Any of these big banks, especially the big banks who own the appraisers, how many of them are looking at this saying, did we properly report our building's value? And does Donald know that we didn't? Because, yeah. We might need to look into some things in the next few years. So, could this be the thing that takes down the entire New York financial net? These big business billionaires? Now, once again, none of this is going to be criminal in nature to the point that they're going to put somebody in prison for it. They'll shake the big stick and say, "Ooh, ooh, Donald, we got him now. We're gonna put him in prison. Oh, we got him now." But for the most part, it's all gonna be fines. And Donald will go sell a fucking building and pay the fines, and go back to playing golf and nailing his fucking supermodel wife. I don't see what this does other than inflame the tensions and keeps people from talking about the houseplant in chief, but it is what it is, and we'll continue to watch this. All right. Let's talk about the January 6th Capitol Selfie Fest. From Yahoo News. Q Shaman. Lawyer issues shockingly offensive defense of client's role in the Capitol riot. From Tim O'Donnell. Albert Watkins, the attorney for Jacob Chansley, perhaps better known as QAnon Shaman, spoke on the record with Talking Points memo about his client's alleged role in the January 6th Capitol Selfie Fest. In the interview published by TPM on Tuesday, Watkins used shockingly offensive language in an attempt to defend Chansley's alleged actions, saying Chansley has Asperger's syndrome and asserting that other participants in the riot have intellectual disabilities that were to blame. These are people with brain damage, he said. He also claimed that they were subject to what he described as the most powerful propaganda campaign since Adolf Hitler's. Read the full graphic passage from the TPM story below. Well, I have the TPM story, so... Well, let's see what the TPM story is. Let's do that first. So, from Talking Points memo, we have... Capitol rioters' Trump defense comes up again and again. Will it make a difference? From Matt Schuham. A few weeks after his arrest for allegedly storming the Capitol on January 6, the man known as the QAnon Shaman, Jacob Chansley, floated an idea that dozens of others have tried, that Trump himself deserved some of the blame for his actions. Chansley's attorney wrote that his client had been consistent in his assertion that but for the actions and the words of the president, he would not have appeared in Washington, D.C. to support the president, and but for the specific words of the then president during his January 6 speech, the defendant would not have walked down Pennsylvania Avenue and would not have gone into the U.S. Capitol building. The argument did not work. No fucking shit, it didn't work. You fucking moron. In a memo explaining his order to keep Chansley detained pending trial, U.S. District Judge Royce C. Lamberth said that it wasn't necessary to question Chansley's sincerity. Even taking the defendant's claim at face value, it does not persuade the court that the defendant would not pose a danger to others if released. Lamberth wrote, defendant truly believes that the only reason he participated in an assault, it wasn't an assault, on the U.S. Capitol was to comply with President Trump's orders. This shows the defendant's inability or refusal to exercise his independent judgment and conform his behavior to the law. Nonetheless, the so-called Trump defense continues to resurface as alleged participants in the Capitol Selfie Fest wend their way through the legal system. And even though the tactic may not get the defendants entirely off the hook, lawyers with whom TPM spoke, including the defense attorneys for the accused, say there's an upside to roping Trump into the case, including potentially a lighter sentence. We're going to help them prosecute Trump, and they're going to let us off with a warning, you guys. Let's all say Trump as loud as we can. Legally, these are unprecedented cases, Chansley's attorney Albert Watkins told TPM last week, and as a result, while the judge may not be compelled to emotionally embrace, as a matter of opinion, the effect or the impact of the words and actions of the former president as being a cause, there is going to necessarily be a legal compulsion to address that reality as part of the evaluation of culpability. The law doesn't recognize it. Blaming Trump for directing a defendant to take criminal actions on January 6, the public authority defense, in which the defendant points out that the authority figure told them to commit a crime, is a legal long shot. It doesn't matter if they were answering his call in terms of their own guilt or innocence, said Harry Littman, a former U.S. attorney and deputy assistant attorney general, referring to Trump. The law doesn't recognize it as an excuse. Whatever brought them here, whatever they were spurred on to do, social media postings or whatever, they're equally guilty under federal statutes. And this is where I'm not going to go any more into this bullshit propaganda article. But we have got to talk about what is going on in this case and what is happening with these people and their idiot, incompetent fucking attorneys. Rant incoming. Alright, first and foremost, they come back out here and they keep going on. They talk about the far-right Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. And okay, the Oath Keepers are probably, you could consider them far-right, but the Proud Boys, definitely not. You know, for them, far-right is white supremacy and Enrique Tarrio, you guys, seriously. But looking at this and looking at what happened here, first and foremost, everybody who comes out and tries to give this specific, the Trump defense, it's the Trump defense, Trump made me do it. Everybody who tries to use that excuse needs to be prosecuted and deserves to be prosecuted under the fullest extent of the law. Now, I have seen some of the charges that they're putting out for people and how over fucking blown these charges are. I've seen Stephen Ignoramus's criminal complaint from when he got picked up for being in the Capitol with a cell phone in each hand and how violently they're trying to portray him on this. For a guy who had a cell phone in each hand the whole time, how they're trying to make this violence and how they're trying to get him for violent attempt to stop the affairs of the U.S. government or whatever fucking bullshit term they put onto this. And I can't imagine what's especially somebody high profile like Q Shaman, like this asshole, that they're probably giving him the same charges or more. But if you're using the Trump defense, first off, if your lawyer is telling you to say, Trump made me do it, then your lawyer should be immediately fucking disbarred. He should have his license taken away, he should be taken off the bar, and he should be blackballed from ever practicing law anywhere else in this country. You know why? What's the first thing that the police tells you when they arrest, the policeman tells you when he arrests you? It's the first Miranda right. You have the right to remain silent. It's an extension of the Fifth Amendment. You have the right not to self-incriminate. If they question you, you don't have to say anything. You have got the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, and you should use it. But if you're coming out and saying, well, Trump made me do it, you're admitting to the court that you did what they're charging you with. And I would love to see the charging documents for some of these people. Like Q Shaman, Jacob Chansley. Q Shaman. This asshole, who didn't go in violently, who didn't go into office, well, he might have gone into offices, but for the most part, didn't go in violently, didn't go in, bust doors, beat down cops or anything else. He went in and said a prayer. That's what he did. He went in and said a prayer. And then he left when the police told him to leave. I would guess, watching the footage, seeing the footage from Stephen Ignoramus's camera, seeing the footage from the drones that they had flying around the Capitol, and the helicopters, and the police footage, and the body cam footage, and everything else that came out of this, I would be willing to bet that 98% of these cases could be pled down to criminal trespass. All right, sir, pay your $1,000 and get the fuck out of my courtroom. I would be willing to bet anything that almost 98% of these cases could get pled down to this. But here these people keep coming out. Oh, well, I did it, but Trump made me do it. No, you idiot. Don't tell them you did it on something like that. And get rid of your idiot attorney, too. I mean, is he working with the system at this time? Are they hiring him to try and put these people in jail forever? Get rid of these people. Get rid of every goddamn one of them. Go out and find somebody. Find some ambulance chaser from out in Wyoming somewhere who probably could do better than your attorney could at this point, who probably knows that you don't self-incriminate yourself. Because these high-dollar DC attorneys obviously don't fucking know that. So, that's what we have coming off of this, and yeah. You know what? If you came out and confessed to the fact that you violently entered the Capitol when you just walked in, then fuck you. Go to jail. I'm serious. If you don't have the good sense to keep your goddamn mouth shut, then go to jail. Better to have you off the streets anyway. All right. center, center, center. Okay, let's get back into it. Speaking of the January 6th Capitol Selfie Fest, McCarthy won't support January 6th Commission and sides with Republicans downplaying the insurrection. From Jeremy Herb. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy announced Tuesday that he opposed an inquiry to investigate the January 6th Capitol Selfie Fest, siding with Republicans who have tried in recent days to downplay and move on from efforts to overturn the 2020 election. There is so much propaganda in that first paragraph, I don't even know where to begin. McCarthy's opposition to the bipartisan agreement for an independent commission comes ahead of a House vote this week to create a panel modeled after the 9/11 Commission, which would be tasked with investigating the circumstances behind the supporters of then-President Trump for breaching the Capitol to try to stop Congress from certifying the Electoral College vote for President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., the House plant-in-chief. The bipartisan agreement to establish the January 6th Commission was reached last week by House Homeland Security Chairman Benny Thompson and the panel's top Republican, Representative John Katko of New York, who was one of the 10 House Republicans to vote to impeach Trump in the wake of the January 6th selfie fest on the Capitol. But McCarthy and other Republicans did not endorse the agreement Katko had reached, which would give McCarthy much of what he'd sought from the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, including an even number of Democrats and Republicans, and sign-off from both sides for subpoenas. On Monday, Minority Whip Steve Scalise said in a statement that GOP leadership would not lobby the members on the legislation, but on Tuesday afternoon, Scalise's office said in a reversal that leadership was now advocating Republicans to vote for it. To vote against it. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell was non-committal on the commission Tuesday, saying Senate Republicans were undecided about the way forward. McCarthy's opposition to the agreement raises questions about the GOP leader's role in... Oh my God. Really? Kevin McCarthy doesn't want us looking into this. That means he planned it. The evil Kevin McCarthy. Let's get rid of him too. Hey, I know. Let's accuse him of boffing a minor too. As he had a heated phone conversation with Trump as the selfie fest was unfolding. Representative Liz Cheney, the ousted GOP conference chair, said on Sunday that McCarthy should provide information to the commission if it is created. Katko on Monday said it would be up to the commission to decide whether to subpoena McCarthy, noting that both sides would have to sign off. In a statement explaining his opposition, McCarthy accused Pelosi of failing to negotiate in good faith, while saying that the scope of the proposed legislation needed to also look at other episodes of political violence beyond January 6th. And there it is, right there. McCarthy is looking up and pointing out the fact that, hey, the current sitting vice president was posting bail for some of these people who were out burning down the country. And you want to sit down and investigate to death a situation where the only person who died, and they're going to keep telling you that 5 people died, but the only person who died as a direct result of what was going on there was one of the protesters. Given the political misdirections that have marred this process, given the slow, now duplicative and potentially counterproductive nature of this effort, and given the Speaker's short-sighted scope that does not examine interrelated forms of political violence in America, I cannot support this legislation, McCarthy said. Now, a lot of people were coming up and talking about the fact that I think we're going to skip this Politico one too, because I think this is going to be a lot of the same thing. A lot of what people were bringing up and talking about with this was Benghazi, and how McCarthy supported 6 investigations into Benghazi, which I think he was wrong to do that too, to be completely honest. Especially when it has to do with Hillary Clinton. Now, yes, that can sit back and mar her presidency, or her presidential hopeful aspirations. But in reality, with Benghazi, just like with, even if they come out and they find Kevin McCarthy, even though he was in the chamber at the time, but if they find him with a giant baton leading the people across Pennsylvania Avenue to go to the Capitol and start to take selfies and telling the Capitol Police to let them in. If they find him in a Grand Marshal's hat with a baton and the drums behind him leading the people onto there, nobody's going to get arrested for this. Nobody. It's the same thing with Benghazi. Why investigate this 4 times? Nothing's bad's going to happen from it. People will sit and complain about it forever, but in the end of the day, Hillary Clinton is going to sit in her office, in her home, and lament the fact that she's married to Bill. So, there you go. Yeah, we'll skip this Politico one too, because we still got a bunch to get to. And it's already 8. All right, this Houseplant in Chief. That's all I have to say about this. From Yahoo News to start with, and I got one from the Daily Wire too, because there's video on that one. Via the Associated Press, Biden takes the wheel of the new F-150 electric truck. And there it goes. I'm not going to lie, even with the protective coating on there, that thing actually kind of looks cool. But presidents aren't supposed to drive. What the fuck happened to that? So this is just video, but yeah, there he is driving that around. Let's put some volume to this.
Now, I don't know if anybody has a stopwatch, but I think if we're going 0 to 60 in about 4.3. 4.4?
Right.
4 flat?
Well, we haven't released it, President.
I should be quiet.
Mr. President, how fast were you going?
Well, okay, I'm just going to step on it. I'll come off at 80 miles an hour. We'll see what it is, okay? Ready?
All right. Let's have a look at what the Daily Wire has to say about this one, though. Biden jokes that he will only answer a reporter's question on Israel if he gets to hit her with a truck. Let me read that for you again. Biden jokes that he will only answer a reporter's question on Israel if he gets to hit her with a truck. Can you imagine the absolute meltdown that this would be if this was DeSantis or Bush or anybody else? We get to watch it too, but let's have a look at what's going on here. Democrat President Joe Biden joked about running over a reporter with a truck on Tuesday after the reporter asked whether she could ask him a question about Israel. The question came as Israel has repeatedly been under attack for over a week from Palestinian terrorist organizations that have launched thousands of rockets at Israel's population. Biden has just delivered a speech at a Ford factory to push for the transformation of electric vehicles throughout the passage of his American Jobs Plan. USA Today reported the $2.3 trillion infrastructure plan would pump $174 billion into electric vehicles, which means the pockets of rich CEOs that donate to him, and maybe $1 billion into electric vehicles. Calling electric vehicles the future of the auto industry, Biden said the investments are needed to catch up to China on production and sales. Let's have a watch.
Quick.
How's it drive?
How does it
President, would you buy one of these?
I would.
How does it feel to be behind the wheel, sir?
It feels great. I tell you what. Electric vehicles. Now, I don't know if anybody has a stopwatch, but I think if we're going 0 to 60 in about 4.3. 4.4?
Right.
4 flat?
Well, we haven't released it, President.
I should be quiet.
Mr. President, how fast were you going?
Well, okay, I'm just going to step on it. I'll come off at 80 miles an hour. You'll see what it is, okay? You ready?
Mr. President, can I ask you a quick question on Israel before you drive
No,
away?
you
since
can't.
It's so important?
Not unless you get in front of the car as I step on it. I'm only teasing. Okay, here we go. You ready?
See it, sir.
You ready?
Our best test driver ever.
I think that was.
I heard a verbatim of holy escort.
Yeah, man. Oh, you can ask me a question about Israel only if you step in front of the truck. When I step on it, I'm only teasing. And Mike Cernovich puts it best. Putin doesn't get the level of fawning propaganda from state media that Biden gets from the free press. Rita Panahi, Australian journalist, says terrible inflation, jobs numbers, widespread gas shortages, worst border crisis in 20 years, Arab-Israeli conflict after Biden Middle East pivot, and the journalists are giggling like schoolgirls. So, yeah, absolutely too. They should be calling this guy out for this. 100%. Because this would be a meltdown. If it was anybody other than demented ass actual houseplant Joe Biden, then this would be a national scandal. I don't think any other Democrat could get away with that one. Really, honestly, when I look at this, I don't think that Yang or Williamson or Castro. Well, Cruz couldn't get away with it either. Or Castro. Or anybody else. I don't think anybody else could have got away with that. So, that's what we see. All right, from Politico. Speaking of the houseplant in chief. Biden admin to waive sanctions for ahead of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. From Ben Lefebvre, I think. I don't know. The Biden admin plans to waive sanctions against an ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin, who heads the company that is building the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from Russia to Germany. Two people with knowledge of the move said on Tuesday. The move to invoke a national security waiver for penalties targeting the company Nord Stream 2 AG and its head, Matthias Warning, will be included in a report on Russian sanctions at the State Department plans to deliver to Congress on Wednesday, according to two people. Politico had reported in April that the administration had reversed a Justice Department decision that gave legal approval to place sanctions to the Warning amid an ongoing internal debate over which entities meet the threshold for sanctions. Warning is also deputy chair of the board of directors of Russian oil company Rosenfeld. The new move from the Biden admin is likely to draw criticism from the lawmakers who have argued that several pipeline vessels and entities, including Nord Stream 2 AG and its CEO, could be subject to sanctions under the Protecting Europe's Energy Security Act of 2019, also known as PISA. The State Department's report will call for 4 companies and 4 ships that are supporting the pipeline construction to be put on the sanctions list, sources said. News of the waiver was first reported by Axios. The State Department spokesperson did not comment on the waivers of the Warning or his company, which is owned by Russian gas company Gazprom. The Biden admin has been clear that the Nord Stream 2 pipeline is a Russian geopolitical project that threatens European energy security, and that the Ukraine and eastern flank of NATO allies and partners, the spokesperson said. We continue to examine entities involved in potentially sanctionable activity, and we made it clear that the companies risk sanctions if they are involved in Nord Stream 2. And this is the best part of this. Sanctions against the firms building or financing the pipeline would deliver natural gas from Russia to Germany, has bipartisan support in Congress, but the Biden admin is keen to maintain a good relationship with the German government, which has supported the project. And by maintaining this good relationship with the German government, you are handing over a great big win to Vladimir Putin, who is supposed to be the most evil person in the world, and he destroyed the integrity of the 2016 U.S. election. But don't worry, nothing bad happened in the 2020 election. Honk, honk, wink, wink, most popular president in history. Honk, wink, wink. I can't even begin to imagine what would have happened if sanctions got eased on the Nord Stream 2 under Trump. He's giving away a giveaway to his puppet master. Look at him. But they didn't even talk about the Nord Stream 2 pipeline under Trump. in spite of the fact that it was probably one of the biggest geopolitical issues that Trump had to go through in his presidency. Open up the pipeline over here, export gas, fuel, and oil to Europe because we had so much of it coming through the Dakota Access Pipeline, and then put the sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 so Russia can't get in on the action. And now here we are. Hey, let's just let Russia get in on the action. Let's let them do whatever the fuck they want. And by the way, let's also shut down the Dakota Access Pipeline. Who is being controlled by who on the global stage at this point? All right, let's grab one here from the Blaze. More houseplant-in-chief stuff. From the Blaze, Biden praises Representative Rashida Tlaib after she confronts him on Israel. And he mispronounces her name 3 times, from Carlos Garcia. Do we have video for this? I would laugh if we have video for this and we can watch this. There's the video. Give me just a sec. Let's read a little bit on this, though. President Joe Biden's attempt to heap praise on Representative Rashida Tlaib during his speech at the Ford factory was undermined by his inability to pronounce her name correctly, despite trying 3 times. Biden was visiting the Ford Rogue Electric Vehicle Center in Dearborn on Tuesday. When he made the remarks, he appeared to call the controversial far-left Congresswoman Rashid instead of her name Rashida. "Rashid Tlaib, where's Rashid?" said Biden during the speech. I tell you what, Rashid, I want to say to you, I admire your intellect. I admire your passion. I admire your concern for so many other people. Let's watch the video. Go away advertisement. And let's have a listen.
Tlaib, where's Rashid? I tell you what, Rashid. Tlaib, where's Rashid? I tell you what, Rashid, I want to say to you that I admire your intellect, I admire your passion, and I admire your concern for so many other people. And it's from my heart, I pray that your grandmom and family are well. I promise you I'm going to do everything to see that they are on the West Bank. You're a fighter, and God, thank you for being a fighter.
You're a fighter, man. Where's Rashid? The guy is falling apart in front of the American people, and all they can do is fawn praise over him. Oh, it's so cute. Look at him. He said that he would answer the Israel question, and the reporter stood out in front of the truck. Oh, how cute. How cute. All right, from the Hill. Ron Helton, I hope you have your Thunberg stickers ready. Greta Thunberg blasts John Kerry over global warming statement. From Christian Spencer. I hate these Changing America articles because the text doesn't start till like halfway down the page. Environmental activist Greta Thunberg is speaking out against John Kerry. John Kerry, after an interview in which the U.S. climate envoy expressed optimism that technological advances will help reduce emissions and people won't have to change certain behaviors to achieve some climate goals. In a Sunday interview with the BBC, Kerry said technology has yet to be invented, will most likely play a large role in combating climate change, and people won't have to give up a quality of life to achieve some of the things we want to achieve. I am told by scientists, not by anybody in politics, that 50% of the reductions that we have to make to get to net zero by 2050 or 2045, as soon as we can, 50% of those reductions are going to come from technologies we don't yet have. That's just a reality, and I will continue to fly around on my private jet. Ha 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 ha. And people who are realistic about this understand that part of the challenge. Thunberg took offense to Kerry's implication that people do not have to change their lifestyles or consumption habits to fight climate change. Greta Thunberg tweets out, 50% of the carbon reductions needed to get to net zero will come from technologies that have not been invented. Great news. I spoke to Harry Potter, and he said he will team up with Gandalf, Sherlock Holmes, and the Avengers, and get started right away. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? So, yeah. And we do have technologies that have yet to be invented that we need to do. And for the most part, I mean, if you just pick up 1 can a day, you're helping the pollution initiative. How dare you, though? How dare you? How dare you wait for technology? And how dare you live your lifestyle? How dare you raise families? You've stolen my dreams and my childhood. How dare you? All right, let's grab another one here from Politico for you guys. Let's talk about Matt Gaetz. Gaetz' associate pleads guilty to 6 federal crimes, including sex trafficking a teen. From Mark Caputo. A former friend and ally of Representative Matt Gaetz formally pleaded guilty on Monday to multiple federal charges, including sex trafficking a minor, ID theft, stalking, and fraud, bringing his broad crime spree to an end and officially marking a new chapter in the investigation of the embattled congressman. Joel Greenberg, who had served as a locally elected tax collector in Central Florida's Seminole County, had resigned his post last year after he was hit with the first of 3 indictments that eventually totaled 33 federal charges, but prosecutors agreed to pare those back in order to secure his cooperation. And wouldn't you know it, I bet you anything that he doesn't see a day in jail off of this, and suddenly he reappears in Utah with a different name. Gaetz has denied all wrongdoing ever since the word leaked in March that federal investigators were looking into whether the Florida congressman had sex with the 17-year-old girl. Gaetz has not been charged with any crime. Joel Greenberg has now confessed to falsely accusing an innocent man of having sex with a minor, said Harlan Hill, a Gaetz spokesperson. The Republican lawmaker previously said that it's Greenberg who has admitted to the crime, is trying to escape a lengthy prison sentence, and has also pleaded guilty to falsely accusing a political rival of being a pedophile. That's not a crime. If that was a crime, then half the corporate press would be guilty. The 84-page plea deal agreement Greenberg formally signed off on in U.S. District Court does not mention Gaetz or anyone else by name, but it states that the victim of the sex trafficking had sex with other men while she was 17. Aside from Gaetz, sources close to the investigation say prosecutors are also examining a former employee of Greenberg's in Seminole County office, a co-conspirator of Greenberg who's allegedly involved in defrauding a coronavirus relief fund, and at least one associate of Gaetz's, the unindicted co-conspirator, is mentioned but not named in one of the federal charging documents against Greenberg. I still see this is probably going to be a gigantic nothing burger by the end of it. They're going to come back and they're going to sit and grandstand. Well, Matt Gaetz, we know that he did it. We couldn't prove it in court, but we know that he did it. And every time from here to eternity, every time that Matt Gaetz gets out to something, all of Twitter's going to say, how about them 17-year-old kids, Matt Gaetz? Hey, I heard you had sex with a 17-year-old. So, we'll see where this goes. Honestly, I feel like this would have been a bigger deal at the time. And somebody ready to come and write a tell-all book would have leaked this long, long before. Somebody who's looking to come back in and cash in. Because now, I'm the victim. Look at me. I'm such a victim here. And now I can make millions off a book deal on the fact that I took down Matt Gaetz. I'm so victimized, you guys. I'm so victimized. Give me more money, please. Follow the money. All right, from Axios. Feds investigating the alleged illegal donations to Collins' re-election bid. This was so fucking funny yesterday when this started going around and people started talking about this on left-wing Twitter. Because you go back out here and look, this campaign finance violation against another Trump complicit Republican. How funny is that? That's another Trump complicit Republican. How Trump complicit do you have to be to vote twice to impeach the president? Answer me that. Answer me that question. Because if you voted twice to convict a person, you're not exactly complicit with his agenda. I hate to tell you this. This is from Lachlan Marquet. The FBI is investigating yet another Republican. But no, we don't use the FBI and the federal law enforcement agencies to go after our political enemies. Don't worry, that never happens. To illegally finance Senator Susan Collins' 2020 re-election bid, Axios has learned. A recently unsealed search warrant application shows the FBI believes a Hawaii defense contractor illegally funneled $150,000 to a pro-Collins super PAC and reimbursed donations to Collins' campaign. There's no indication that Collins or her team were aware of any of it. Collins helped the contractor at issue, then called Navitec and since renamed the Martin Defense Group, secure an $8 million Navy contract before most of the donations took place. Former Navitec CEO Martin Cow was indicted last year for allegedly bilking the federal government of millions in coronavirus relief loans. The Collins for Senator campaign had absolutely no knowledge of anything alleged in the warrant, Collins spokesperson Andy Clark told Axios in an emailed statement. Federal prosecutors say Cow used a shell company to funnel $150,000 in Navitec funds to a pro-Collins super PAC called the 1820 PAC. According to the FBI, Cow and his wife set up a sham LLC and called the Society for Young Women Scientists and Engineers. Navitec then wrote the LLC a $150,000 check, investigators say, which was passed on to the super PAC. Government contractors are barred from donating to federal political committees, and investigators suspect the donations were attempts to evade the prohibition. Investigators say bank records also show that Cow illegally reimbursed family members who donated to Collins' campaigns and that Navitec reimbursed some of Cow's colleagues for their contributions. This is what's known as a straw donation, and is prohibited by law. The Collins campaign's fundraising solicitations also require donors to certify that they are in fact donating their own funds. Who cares? That's all I have to say to that. Who gives a fuck? It's Susan Collins, for God's sake. And they should be praising this woman. I'm surprised this story even saw the light of day. Except for the fact that she does, in spite of the fact she does whatever the Democrats tell her, she still has that R next to her name. So she's got to be evil, no matter what. She votes legitimately. Every time the Democrats say jump, she votes for what they want her to vote for. But she's still got that R next to her name. All right, from the Daily Wire. Kamala Harris keeps a running tab of reporters who don't fully understand or appreciate her. Ministry of Propaganda from Beth Bauman. Vice President Kamala Harris keeps a running list of reporters and journalists who don't fully understand or appreciate her life experience, The Atlantic reported. It appears that the goal of the list is to keep Harris away from reporters she and her team have deemed unworthy of receiving an interview. Wow. Wow. I can't believe I just read those words. The vice president and her team tend to dismiss reporters trying to get her to take a few questions after events as treated as an act of impish aggression, and Harris herself tracks political players and reporters whom she thinks don't fully understand her or appreciate her life experience. She often mentions an episode in which a Washington Post reporter mistook the cheer of the historic black sorority Alpha Kappa Alpha for screeches. I was told, the outlet indicated, she particularly doesn't like the word cautious, And aides look out for synonyms too: careful, guarded, hesitant, don't go over well, but she continues to retreat behind talking points and platitudes in public and declines many interview requests and opportunities to speak for herself, including for this article. According to The Atlantic, television producers have to weigh the pros and cons of sending a reporter to meet with the vice president, given how little usable material they get out of it. Yeah, she's hiding in the basement too, and she can't debate her way out of a paper bag. The House Plant in Chief can't debate his way out of a paper bag. Why? Oh, why? Are these people even in office at this point? They won't talk to the press in spite of the fact that their predecessor was criticized up and down for not talking to the press. They won't talk to the press. Is the Capitol still locked down? As far as I know, the Capitol is still locked down. There's still military presence in the Capitol. And there was, even if there isn't, there was for 4 months into the beginning of the presidency. And this is exactly how the most popular president in all of history and his vice president would act. This is exactly how somebody who got 81 million votes would act. Most popular president in the country. More votes than even Barack Obama. All right, let's grab one from NBC News. Let's shift gears here and talk down about Congress now. Except the page reloaded, and now I've got to refresh this a couple times. Don't worry, old girl. The pieces are coming. You're about to be able to retire. Come on, you. I know you'll eventually say continue without supporting this time. There it is. Best $500 I ever spent. GOP lawmakers flout mask rules. Risk fine on House floor. From Haley Talbot and D'Artagnan Clark. Several Republican lawmakers, in an act of apparent protest, flouted mask rules on the House floor Tuesday during a voting session and then took a photo in front of the Capitol steps. Best $500 I ever spent, Representative Brian Mast of Florida said after he left the chamber, a reference to the fine House members face for breaking the mask rule set by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. The fine is $500 for the first offense and $2,500 for the second offense. He was joined in protest by Representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, Chip Roy of Texas, Lauren Boebert of Colorado, Thomas Massie of Kentucky, Madison Cawthorn of North Carolina, who's the other one they're trying to take down and say, oh, he's a rapist too, look at this guy. Beth Van Dyne of Texas, Louis Gohmert of Texas, Ralph Norman of South Carolina, and Mary Miller of Illinois. Later Tuesday, a Capitol official confirmed the first offense warnings for not following the mask rules would be issued to Boebert, Massie, Greene, Roy, Good, Gohmert, and Mary Miller. Mast, Van Dyne, and Rep. Marinette Miller Meeks of Iowa will be fined $500 after a second related offense. The official said the fine for the third offense, the official added, is $2,500. For the fine for each offense after that is $2,500. In March and in late April, Pelosi said about 1 in 4 members of the House had not been vaccinated against the commie fucking coof. Even though they had access to the vaccine since December, many Republican lawmakers had protested since Pelosi put infection control measures in place in the House, as well as after the January 6th Capitol Selfie Fest. Massie organized the protest, a source said. Well, good on him. Absolutely. So, they're starting to push back and do what it is that they need to do because they have the right to protest as well. So we'll see what happens with this. But Marjorie Taylor Greene apparently got up and did some speaking with this as well. Let's have a listen to what the plant had to say.
Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for up to 5 minutes and advise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to the commission to study the events of January 6th, as well as spending $2 billion in security supplemental. The question that comes to mind is this: what about all the riots that happened during the summer of 2020 after the death of George Floyd? What about all the damage caused to federal buildings, churches, people's businesses, and innocent people that were killed, like David Dorn. This past summer, Minneapolis city officials estimate 700 buildings were damaged, burned, or destroyed, including 360 local businesses. Riots caused an estimated $55 million in damages in Minneapolis alone. BLM and Antifa established an autonomous zone in Seattle and attempted to burn government buildings in Portland. Is that not an insurrection? On one Friday night alone in New York City, BLM protesters caused over $100,000 in damages and 150 people were arrested. Just one Monday night in Philadelphia resulted in a crowd of 1,000 people looting stores, setting fires in the middle of the street, and 30 police officers injured. Protests in Kansas City resulted in $2.1 million in damages, mostly over the course of one weekend. Several officers were injured as well. Protests in Wichita, Kansas cost the police department about $1.5 million in overtime. Protests in Salt Lake City cost at least $100,000 in damages. Protests in Denver cost the city at least $5.5 million in damages and overtime. BLM protests in Nashville set a federal courthouse on fire. The destruction is estimated to have cost $1.2 million in damages. Again, is that an insurrection? Protesters in Portland destroyed barriers and attempted to burn down government buildings, resulting in $2.3 million in damages, including $1.6 million in damages to the courthouse downtown. In St. Louis, following the night of violence, buildings were looted.
All right, that's enough of that. And I mean, she does give a good point every once in a while, but for the most part, I think that the woman is a plant. But yeah, I mean, we look back at this, and this goes on with the Capitol Selfie Fest. I thought this had to do with the mask, so that's why I filed this here. But I should have filed this back when we were talking about McCarthy off of this. But yeah, she's exactly on point. It's not about, well, they don't want to investigate the Selfie Fest, so they're hypocrites because they wanted to invest Benghazi. No, it's your hypocrites because you want to investigate the Selfie Fest. When we saw, I mean, my hometown, Kenosha, burned up everywhere east of the train tracks. Business is gone. I went down. That car dealer is back open, by the way. I was down there the other day. The car dealer that we saw burn up, that's back open. They got that all fixed up. Most of the boards are down now, but even still, the fact that large swaths of the downtown district just have the plywood up because we're standing in solidarity with BLM and we don't want them to bust out our windows either. So, yeah, where's the investigation of that? But yeah, of course, now they're going to come out. They have Benghazi. They can sit back and run and look at with us. Wow, I can talk this morning. I'm going to start talking like Joe Biden, okay? It's a childhood stutter. No, they've got Benghazi they can sit and run with like a chew toy and shake around and say, hey, look at Republicans don't want to, they must be complicit in the January 6th Capitol riot because they don't want to investigate it. But Benghazi. Well, show me the investigation into these organizations that the sitting vice president bailed people out of jail for across the country this summer, and the federal buildings that were attacked for that, in Portland especially, because that went on for months. All right, speaking of masks. From the Daily Wire, 10-year-old boy obliterates school board's mask mandate. From Chrissy Clark. The 10-year-old boy gave an impassioned speech to a Florida school board begging the council to end the district's in-school mask mandate. The fourth grader told Martin County School District in southeastern Florida that teachers often defy the mask mandate. He recalls one teacher who yells at students if they lower their masks to take a sip of water outdoors. The boy claims that he saw his teacher off school property and recognized her because she takes her mask breaks at her desk, though she did not recognize him as the same privilege is not given to students. Let's listen to the speech.
Turned 10 years old.
Talk a little closer to that.
I just turned 10 years old, and I am a fourth grader at Felix A. Williams. I expected school to be a little bit different in the beginning, but I didn't think it would stay this way all year long, and I was surprised by the rules. A lot of them didn't make any sense to me, like the fact that we were not allowed to play on the playground or have student council, or turn to face each other at lunch, and we also have to wear masks outside at PE and on track. I love my school and all, but my teachers seem really stressed, and that makes me feel bad. One teacher walks around with a clipboard full of referrals for any student whose mask isn't on properly. It makes me feel scared. That same teacher yells at us having our masks down to drink water while we are outside in car line. She told us we had to wait until we were in our parents' car to have a drink of water. She had her mask down the entire time while she was yelling at us, which makes me and all my friends very mad. This happens a lot. And it seems unfair teachers take their masks off while they yell at us kids and that we need to pull ours up. I asked my mom if there's a word for this, and she said there is. Hypocrisy. Wearing a mask all day makes me feel really tired and gives me really bad headaches. Sometimes I'm in school and I need to lay low in the dark until they're gone. My mask also sticks to my face when it's really hot, and it makes it hard to breathe. I feel like I can't catch my breath, and that makes me feel claustrophobic and anxious. It's really stressful. I finished taking all of my FSAs, and I had a hard time focusing with a mask on. A few weeks ago, I ran into my teacher outside of school. She didn't even recognize me because she's never seen my face before. But I knew it was her because she sits at her desk a lot without a mask on. I know my teacher has asthma and everything, but I understand why it's hard for her to wear a mask, and I think she should have that choice. But I should too. I have allergies, and I feel really anxious with my face covered. But I'm not allowed a mask break like her. It seems unfair. All this seems unfair, and it doesn't make sense. I miss seeing people's face. I miss the way things used to be. I'm scared they'll never go back to normal. Breathing freely doesn't seem like something we should have to ask any other people for permission for. Please make masks optional today. It would be so awesome to end the school year on a really happy note like that. Thank you for your time.
All right, and with that, I mean, he's got a lot of points to this, and even if the mandates go down, there are still people who are going to wear a mask because it's their personal choice to do so. We talked about this on Monday, Elaine and I. We sat down, we talked about the fact that AOC, and I said I agree with AOC on this, which blew everybody's mind. Elaine actually wrote it in the calendar that I agreed with AOC because she said that even if the mandates go down, she's still going to continue to wear one and that's people's personal choice. It is. It is your personal choice to do so. But really, honestly, especially given the fact, and this is a point that the kid didn't hit on, but I do want to take an extension to this as well. It's the adult, it's the teacher with the asthma who's more at risk from the commie fucking coof than the kid. This disease has almost statistically insignificantly affected children. But the 20-something or 30-something-year-old teacher is at the very, 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 very bottom edge of the danger zone. She's closer to a person who might get affected by this. And she's the one that gets to take a mask break. The kids don't. So, a lot of stuff to watch with this, a lot of stuff to see, but we will see what goes on with that. All right, let's keep going. I've got one local here from WKOW out of Madison, Wisconsin. Dane County mask orders to end June 2nd, and so is Milwaukee County too, by the way. Public Health Madison and Dane County announced Tuesday that all area mask orders will end on June 2nd in line with new CDC guidelines. According to a news release from the City of Madison, officials estimate that 75% of the eligible Dane County residents will have received at least one dose of the vaccine by June 2nd, which is when the current emergency order is up. Because not everyone is able to get vaccinated, particularly our kids younger than 12, even after the orders expire, unvaccinated people should continue to wear masks in public spaces, PHMDC Director Janelle Heinrich said in the release. As of May 18th, 53.5% of Dane County residents are fully vaccinated. Really? For Dane County, that actually seems kind of low, I'm not going to lie. PHMDC said in a local business that may choose to keep mask requirements in place. There may be people and businesses out there who still want mask policies in place after the orders, and as masks still provide an additional layer of protection, Dane County Executive Joe Parisi said in the release, "We recommend that businesses take this time to consider next steps while reminding patrons of the current order which remains in place." And, around here too. I mean, I don't live in Dane, I live in Rock. So, in Rock County, we've got one major metropolitan area where you can go shop because Whitewater is the other one we could go to, but that's in, I think Walworth County is Whitewater. So, I mean, you can go to, if you live in Rock County, you can go to Whitewater, you can go to Janesville. And in Janesville, you look around the town, and like the Woodman's has no mask mandate anymore. You can walk in there free and clear, but the festival food still does. The grocery store here in redacted town name here, they just took the sign down. The Quick Trips all took the sign down. So it's still a matter. And I went to Five Guys in Janesville last night, and they still have the sign up. And once again, and it goes with private property rights. If the business says that you have to have the mask on, then you always should. Always. Because it's their right to mandate that. And if you don't like it, you shouldn't do business with them. Why would you reward them with your money if they make a mandate that you don't like, that you don't want to follow, you're so adamantly against, that you would break the rules and rip off that mask in front of people and say, "Fuck your mask," as the already conservative would say? Why would you reward that business with your money, especially with no mandate in place, where they are making their own decision to do so? Don't reward them. Now, I don't have that much of a reservation. I tend to, as much as I can, frequent businesses that don't have the mandate sign up, but, I'm not going to come out and say, I will never do business with you if you have the mask up. I'll just do what I need to do, throw it on, throw it back in my truck when I'm done, and get done. But the government mandate is going away in Dane County. All right. From the Blaze, conservative campaign aims to pressure CEOs against woke capitalism. Because this always ends well for conservative companies. I have a feeling I'm going to be rolling my eyes a lot in this one. From Carlos Garcia. A conservative campaign aims to pressure companies against woke capitalism through television advertisements, criticizing CEOs who have kowtowed to the agenda of left-wing political activists. Consumers Research told CNBC that their $1 million ad campaign will target Nike, Coca-Cola, and American Airlines. Oh boy. You ever see a dog chasing a car and wonder what the fuck it is he plans to do with it once he gets it? That's kind of like watching conservative companies try to go after the big names who have billions upon trillions of dollars of free advertising from mainstream media moguls, from the government, from every institution in the country, to try and get them to stop kowtowing to the woke mob. I mean, I like the idea. Don't get me wrong. I like the idea, but it's one of these things where your money's probably spent better elsewhere. Consumers Research told CNBC that their $1 million ad campaign will target Nike, Coca-Cola, and American Airlines. Increasingly, we're seeing companies taking off their eye off the ball, said Consumer Research Executive Director William Hild. Our focus is on the consumer, he added, and that's what it should be for these companies as well. But increasingly, we're seeing them work to curry favor with woke politicians rather than focusing on serving their consumers. Nike was criticized sharply by many of the on the right after they signed Colin Kaepernick, the controversial former NFL quarterback, to a $1 million ad campaign. The conservative effort will pressure Nike CEO John Donahoe to answer for allegations of forced child labor in China. Congressional reports suspect Nike used forced labor in China. The ad against Nike says religious minorities were ripped from their families, sterilized, sold to factories. Nike made shoes in those same areas, which I don't understand the sterilization part of this. If you are going to be that evil, that horrifying, that you would take another man to own another man, to own his body and his labor. When you sterilize them, you kind of cut off the supply. So actually, maybe this is a good thing, because then they don't have their slaves for very much longer. But even still, that just... If you're that evil, then you're also that fucking dumb. Coca-Cola faced similar criticism when the company's CEO, James Quincy, repeated liberal talking points against Georgia's election reform laws. The conservative campaign will target Quincy over obesity in America. We're putting these three companies on notice that consumers have had it, and they need to focus on serving their customers and not woke politicians, Hill told the Washington Examiner. Here's an idea for you guys. Practice what you preach. Now, yes, I appreciate you have the freedom of speech to do so, but I have the freedom of speech to criticize your dumbass for doing the same thing. Forget what Nike is doing. Forget what American Airlines is doing. Forget what Coca-Cola is doing. Make a better product and focus more on your customers. They see it. They understand. They appreciate it. I appreciate it when the company I'm buying from goes the extra mile to make sure that I get the best product available. And that's, I've stopped shopping at Target and Walmart for the same thing. And Burger King, they just make horrifically cringe advertising campaigns, and I just don't want to give them my money. But like Walmart and Target, I stopped shopping at both of those stores because while I know that the majority of your big box stores, your big business stores out there, do not align with me politically, Walmart and Target are the only two that have actually told me that outright, that they don't align with me politically. And guess what? They don't get rewarded with my money. I know if I go to the local Kohl's, the CEO up there probably donated 20% to Republican GOP campaigns and 80% to Democrat campaigns. I'm sure that CEO donated that, but I would actually have to go digging to find that out. They don't put it in their advertising campaigns. So I'll give them my money. I will spend my money in their stores. I have no problem with that. And they make decent products, and they put decent products up on their shelf. That on top of it too. So that's what we see going on from that. All right, from the New York Post. Maybe, if it catches up. Come on, old HP, we've only got a week left. The new pieces are coming. The new computer's coming. You get to retire soon. Which is good, because I've worked this little HP much, much harder than any Core i5 should ever have to be worked. All right, let's see what the New York Post has to say. Andrew Giuliani announces 2022 bid for New York governor. From Carl Campanile. Andrew Giuliani has dreams of turning next year's gubernatorial race into another fight of the century. The son of former New York City Mayor Rudolph Giuliani will announce Tuesday that he's officially running for the Republican primary in 2022 and is confident he can not only knock out veteran GOP competition, but then go on to take out the scandal-ridden Governor Andrew Cuomo. I'm a politician out of the womb. It's in my DNA, Giuliani, 35, told the Post, and that's 3/4 of the problem with Giuliani going up there and doing that, by the way, is because he is a politician by blood, which means that we have, what's the word? It's not crony, it's the other one. Nepotistic politics. And I don't want to see any more nepotism in politics. I don't want to see any more Bushes, any more Clintons, really, honestly, any more Giulianis. But still, I go on with this too. And, people are making fun of Giuliani, which we don't see the smile on this one. But, yeah, there it is. The big smile that's coming out of Giuliani here. And they're trying to say that he looks like Gary Busey. Dude, doesn't this dude look like fucking Sidney Powell to you? I swear to God he does. Giuliani versus Cuomo. Holy smokes, it's Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier. We can sell tickets at Madison Square Garden, he said, referring to the famous 1971 heavyweight title prize fight. Giuliani, who served for 4 years as White House aide to the former president, insisted that he is qualified to run despite having never before run for a public office, and that he has the best chance to topple embattled three-term incumbent Cuomo. Well, I think Cuomo is the best reason for someone to topple three-term embattled Governor Cuomo. It would be one of those epic showdowns in the state's history, said Giuliani, saying he will run as a change agent, as did Trump and his dad. His playbook will be pro-business, pro-police, pro-public school. Well, you had me until the second one. I'm sorry, not pro-public school, pro-school choice. Wow, I can't fucking read this morning. Jeez. But yeah, pro-police. That tells me everything I need to know about your campaign. Giuliani has his father's bravado, if not background, as a mafia-fighting Manhattan federal prosecutor coming into the race. I know we can defeat Andrew Cuomo in 2022. I'm going to be the 57th governor of New York, he said. Well, good luck. That's all I have to say about that. Good luck. We will see what happens with this, and we will see where this goes. Dude, I'm telling you, doesn't the dude look like Sidney Powell, though? Seriously. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. All right. From CNN. 3 deputies who fired shots at Andrew Brown Jr. will be reinstated and retrained, the sheriff says, from Eric Levinson, Melissa Alonso, and Amir Vera. F in the chat for Kentucky. Is it Kentucky? It's not Kentucky. It's North Carolina. Why the hell did I think Kentucky? I need to start going to bed earlier so I get some sleep so I can actually do this without screwing this stuff up. District Attorney Andrew Womble announced Tuesday that the deputies who fatally shot Andrew Brown Jr. last month were justified in using deadly force, saying Brown recklessly drove at the officers on scene while trying to flee arrest. Mr. Brown's death, while tragic, was justified because Mr. Brown's actions caused 3 deputies to reasonably believe it was necessary to use deadly force to protect themselves and others, Womble said. The 3 deputies who fired at Brown, a 42-year-old black man, will also be reinstated and retrained, Pasquotank Sheriff Tommy Wooten said on Tuesday. Wooten announced disciplinary actions would be taken against the deputies that responded to the scene. While the district attorney concluded that no criminal law was violated, this was terrible and tragic outcome, and we could do better, Wooten said, adding that the 2 deputies did not turn on their body cameras during the incident. Well, that's wrong. Because they should have all had their body cameras on at that point. In response, an attorney for the family of Brown said she's not sure what the discipline is going to entail. They did not follow their own policies, says Chantal Cherry Lester, Brown family attorney. They were not being safe during the entire interaction. When asked if she felt the deputies should be fired, she said, "It needs to be severe discipline." Brown's family is outraged and very disappointed by this decision, Cherry Lassiter told CNN. Brown was shot twice, including once in the back of the head, by Pasquotank County Sheriff's deputies in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, on April 21st, when they attempted to serve 2 felony warrants and a search warrant. The killing has led to protests in Elizabeth City against police violence and the authorities' lack of transparency in declining to release the videos publicly. The FBI has separately announced a federal civil rights investigation. But don't worry, in this country, we don't use federal law enforcement to go after our political enemies. Honk. In coming to his decision, Womble relied on an investigative report into the shooting conducted by the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation. That report is not considered a public record and will not be publicly released, the SBI said. Womble also played 4 body camera videos to the public for the first time on Tuesday. The footage shows the key parts of the incident, which lasts 44 seconds from the time officers exit their vehicle to the time Brown is removed from his. 3 of the 7 deputies on the scene fired a total of 14 shots at Brown, according to Womble. He said Brown's driving constituted a threat and justified the officer's decision to shoot, offering an expansive interpretation of what officers are legally allowed to do. When you employ a car in a manner that puts officers' lives in danger, that is a threat, Womble said, and I don't care what direction you're going, forward, backwards, sideways. I don't care if you're stationary, and neither do our courts and our case law. And there is, to an extent, some truth to what he's saying here. Now, I have a hard time with this sometimes because I look at this and I look at the fact that the justification that the judge is using in this particular case is that Brown was using his car directly to assault the officers, which I've not seen the footage, so I don't know if that's true. But they also put in the caveat for threat to others, which is pre-crime. Now, I do understand, and I understand totally, like with Jacob Blake, St. Jacob, hallowed be his name. When he got shot in the back, first off, he had a knife in his hand, but second off, even if he didn't, he was attempting to get into a car, into an SUV with 3 children in the back. Whereas, what could happen? He could go out, he's got 3 hostages, first and foremost, in a state of mind where we don't know if he could kill those hostages or who those hostages even are in relation to him yet at the time. The officers have to figure all this out in a matter of seconds. Plus, then he could go off, he could possibly ram the car into a concrete pole, into another car, into a train, into a building, something else like that. Killing himself, possibly killing another person in the process, or killing the children in the back seat. And it's the same thing with Brown. Yes, he had the potential, but he could also have run off, high-speed chase, hit a pole, hit somebody else, hit a kid, but still, that does constitute pre-crime as well. And there was less immediacy because there were no other passengers in the vehicle. I am 100% 50-50 split, torn on this one, on this decision, based on what I know about it. And I do need to see the video and see what's going on with that. But 50-50 torn as to whether I would consider this justified or not. It could go legitimately either way for me. But we will see what happens with that. All right, just a couple more here, then we will do something I'm thankful for and head out for the day. From Como News, Tesla on autopilot slams into Snohomish, is that how you pronounce that? Snohomish County Deputy's patrol car. From KOMO News staff. A Tesla on autopilot mode crashed into a Snohomish County deputy's patrol car over the weekend, causing significant damage, sheriff's officials said. The incident unfolded Saturday as the deputy responded to the 5200 block of 103rd Avenue Northeast, where a vehicle had crashed into a power pole and sheared it in half. The deputy parked on the shoulder on the road with his emergency lights flashing and exited his vehicle to speak with the fire units on scene. About 30 seconds later, a Tesla in autopilot mode slammed into the deputy's vehicle, heavily damaging the front driver's side. No one was injured in the crash, but the sheriff's official said it could have been worse. This is a great reminder that vehicles may have autopilot to assist, but cannot be relied upon to get you safely from one destination to the next, the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office said. No shit, Sherlock. And while I was looking for this article, because I saw just a headline on this, a tweet on this one, while I was looking for this article specifically, there was another story from the Kenosha News where the sheriff's deputy came out and said that, and there's no legislation for this, but if you are driving a Tesla with autopilot mode enabled, you should still have your hands on the wheel and your foot close to the brake. Because you can react better than a machine can, and you have cognitive reasoning abilities that the machine does not have, as you can see by the fact that it just slammed into a deputy's car. You have individual judgment and reasoning abilities that a machine just can't learn, at least not yet. They may be able to do so in the future, but they just don't have it yet. So yes, even if you are on autopilot mode, keep a hand on the wheels, just in case something happens. All right, last one then for the day. Then we'll do something I'm thankful for and head on out of here for the day. Thanks, guys, for coming in and chatting, too, by the way. Even the detractors. Even those, you're welcome here, too. Although, if you're insulted by somebody making fun of the president, I suggest you find something else, because Yeah, I'm not going to stop doing that. I'm not going to stop. But you're welcome to come in here and chat in the live chat anyway. Everybody's welcome here. Unless you are specifically doxing somebody or personally attacking somebody, everyone can chat in the live chat. Everybody. Everybody's welcome. Those are the only two things, and, well, mods have their own judgment too, but for the most part, those are my rules. Those are the only two things that I don't allow in my chat. No doxing, no personal attacks. Other than that, you guys got free reign. All right, American Airlines investigating Texas pilot who criticized critical race theory in his local school. From Tim Pierce. American Airlines is investigating one of its pilots after he spoke out against CRT being taught in his local school. The airline chose to investigate Guy Midkiff, 62, after several social media accounts urged the company to audit Midkiff's social media history. Midkiff is a resident in Southlake, Texas, who has flown for American over 3 decades. We are troubled by the allegations made and have launched an investigation into this matter, said American Airlines representative. The debate over CRT has raged in Southlake for months, culminating earlier this month in a slew of landslide victories for Republican opponents to CRT, to elected positions on the school board, and into city offices. The margins of victory were massive, roughly 70% to 30% in each race. CRT curriculum in Southlake's Carroll Independent School District was the central issue throughout the election and generated huge interest in the community. The voter turnout for elections was 3 times higher than that of years past. Midkiff was a vocal critic of the school's proposed CRT-inspired course called the Cultural Competence Action Plan. Advocates of the proposed accused Midkiff of his use of social media accounts as well as the platform of a podcast he hosts to harass people. Midkiff has hit back at his accusers. Is this a podcast that I used to harass people? Do I use this for that? No. I do make fun of politicians, though. Midkiff has hit back at his accusers, claiming that they're using bully tactics to silence him. 2 groups who pushed for CRT to be implemented in the Carroll School District took their complaints about Midkiff to American Airlines over Twitter. The airline acknowledged the complaints and promised to review Midkiff's social media history. But don't worry, we don't use investigations to silence our political opponents. That never happens. And there's some of the tweets here. Hey, American Air, why is this man saying he's a pilot for your airline? He's consistently harassing minority females in Southlake, and now is going after our students. SARC stands for Southlake Anti-Racism Coalition, and is made up mostly of students, kids. The employee stands against American Air's commitment to inclusion and diversity. It's clear what he thinks about your training. Did he even have to participate, or is it just a thing you use for marketing? Your employee has been harassing students and community members relentlessly for months, speaking out against the racism they experience in our town. From targeting individual minors and accosting our organization, here are some of his most recent unprofessional comments. So, yeah, there's that. I just wonder how many followers these 2 accounts have. Just out of curiosity. Because we've seen a lot of people that are kowtowing to accounts with like 0 or 2 followers or something like that. I don't know, it's being slow. Let's see if this one goes any faster. 1,000 followers. Which, I mean, it's a local thing too, but still. I don't know, it's running slow, you guys. But that's what we have for the day here. That's what we see for the news. You decide. I'll bring you the news. I'll tell you what I think of it. You guys decide. And that's going to be it for the day. So, last thing we're going to do on Wednesday is something that I'm thankful for. So, I look around for a lot of things. It is. I would almost look back and say there's really nothing to be thankful for this week. But that's not true. There's always something to be thankful for. I am appalled by the fact that the government is forcing me to take stimulus money. According to the statement that I'm getting back from the government, if I don't take the stimulus money, then they're just going to give it to me anyway through my tax refund. So it's either that or it'll just circulate forever and they'll send me another check at this point. So with that, I've decided that if I have to take it, and then I'm going to get taxed on it anyway, you know it is. I'm going to get the hook. The hook is buried into me, but I took that money and I bought a new computer. In spite of and like I said, nothing comes out of the government that doesn't have a massive hook buried into it. So, hey, when we start getting drafted to go defend Israel, I'm probably going to be the one that takes it. I'm probably going to be the one that's up on the front lines because I speak out against the government and their oppression. But I'm thankful for that. That's coming up here in the near future. And I'm thankful for you guys who've sat with me, the mods, everybody else that comes in here and hangs out with me, whether you agree with my opinion or not. You still come out here, you still come and hang out. And I like that. I'm thankful for that as well. We're going to have some changes coming up in the near future. So hopefully you guys look for that. Hopefully we'll have some better production values coming up in the near future. And there is that to look forward to as well. But yeah, definitely look forward to that. Thankful for the audience. That's what it's going to be this week. Thankful for the audience and the opportunity to come out here and build something where I'm getting donations, where I'm getting people coming in to support, and where I'm getting people ready to come and help out to build Freedom Scoop to where I want it to be. And make sure you guys do go and check out all my friends over there as well. I said at the top of the show, but since I'm thankful for you guys, go and check out the other Freedom Scoop creators as well. Stephen Ignoramus on his new channel, which I think I can, no, because everything's running slow, I don't know if I can link that in the chat or not, but on his new channel, you can go check that out. You can hang out in the Discord where it's going to be linked as well. Go check out the Generational Gap, the R-Rated Conservative, the Freckles and Brit Show, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff. All great programming. You guys are awesome. Thanks for coming and hanging out for the week. We will see you tomorrow, bright and early, for more Contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.